Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. Sorry I'm late. I was up, I was awake, I was walking around. Then I sat down with Keo. Keo, I just closed my eyes for 1 second. He was so cuddly and purry, and we just both fell asleep. And you know what? It was kind of lovely. So Tona wanted to see something. So we're going to see something from Tona today, and then another little bonus clip thing. Not really bonus. It is bonus. I'm going to show you. This is the channel marked with deception and betrayal. And what we're going to watch today is a male Karen who just terrorizes everyone. Everybody. Thank you, Tona, for finding that. Fozzie, thank you so much for sending me the 10-minute video yesterday and the short that I made yesterday. That was lovely. Thank you. And Josh, thank you so much for the $30 Venmo. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, let's get some true crime. You guys ready? Thank you. Oh, sugar. Link in the description to both the little videos I'm going to play today and well, you can get to that from the videos, the channel.
You're going to get somebody up here right now. This guy is going to kill somebody. I swear to God, he is going up. He is threatening us. You've got to get somebody up here now. Get him here now. This is dangerous. Now I said somebody's going to end up dying over this.
In the quiet suburbs of Utah, behind the doors of an unassuming house in Salt Lake City, lived a man whose name would become synonymous with fear and frustration. Maurice Rafoul, 43 years old, a man long hidden in plain sight, living with his elderly parents.
Is he single?
His presence registered as little more than a whisper in public records, until that whisper grew.
I need people in your town arrested for committing organized crime against me.
Sir,
What I'm calling about. I'm in Utah, man. I'm in Utah.
Yep. That explains it all. I'm in Utah, ma'am. If only we knew a couple of people in chat that were from Utah.
This ain't ever ending. I'm coming down there with my folks, and I'm going to smash your house.
Since 1995, Salt Lake City police had been dispatched to the Rafoul residence over 100 times. Neighbors knew the address, officers recognized the name, and yet, for decades, nothing stuck. No charges, no prosecution, no intervention. The alleged threats crossed not just neighborhood boundaries, but state lines. From Utah to Louisiana, Maurice Rafoul left behind a trail of fear, confusion, and silence. Death threats, intimidation, even physical violence, including a reported assault on his own father. But one voice refused to stay silent. Investigative reporter Wendy Halloran of KUTV 2 News Investigates. Wendy's investigation uncovered a man in the throes of a deep, untreated mental health crisis, one that his father, Assad Rafoul, refused to allow physicians to treat.
Kay Gaspar and Monica Hargett own Lux Spa in Lafayette, Louisiana. They say Maurice Rafoul first came to their spa for services in 2015. They forged a friendship with him, saying he was business-oriented and claimed he traveled back and forth to help run a family business.
He claimed to be a millionaire.
And he and Monica talked about a possible business venture in a nail salon. That's when they say he started acting strange, saying they wanted his money.
Try me.
He later started leaving messages on the spa's answering machine.
I'm going to have millions in the not-too-distant future. And I'm going to kill you, you.
In a 108-page letter, Raful wrote, "As soon as Monica and Kay tried to rope me into their fraud, I immediately blocked their phones." Maurice Raful blamed Kay Gaspar for illegally drugging him with injections of vitamin B12. The earlier 3 shots of supposed B12 were some medicine that would create later anxiety and a little paranoia. Because 13 months later, a licensed clinical social worker in Salt Lake City diagnosed me with a chemically induced paranoia.
He asked for that. I didn't say, hey, Maurice, you want a B12 shot? I mean, half the things that he needed, he asked for. It's an established medical office. I treat thousands of people a year.
And he tried to go after your license, right?
He wrote a 100-page letter to the State Board of Nursing here in Louisiana that I had to go and defend myself against.
Our 2 News investigation corroborated this. The complaint was dismissed. Kay and Monica went to Lafayette Police and got a restraining order against him, but they could never find him to serve him. That's because he was right here in Salt Lake City making dozens of menacing calls to the women.
Sunday, 12:39 a.m. Just remember, Kay, I talked to you cops the way I wanted to. I'm going to make sure you're dead, you little.
A page out of Raful's letter, I had no clue that Monica and Kay were the central figures in a multi-million-dollar criminal affiliation. They were backed by the marshal of the town, criminal elements of the police department, criminal elements of the sheriff's department, criminal elements of the state police, as well as many low-level felons and petty criminals, the Lafayette General Hospital and Lake Pines Hospital in Kenner, Louisiana. All of these entities work in unison. This was the beginning of a very sad part of my life.
I will hunt you, you. I will hunt you. You tell that girlfriend of yours, you're both.
He said he was going to kill me and my wife and my children. Specifically, I will kill you. I went to the police down here and they couldn't do anything.
1:59 a.m. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. You and Monica. I'm gonna run ammo up and down your face. You're the nobody, Miss Kay. You're nobody. You ain't done. You ain't done. You fat. And I assure you, contact.
Well, you got to give the beeper a second to recharge, guys. It's too many beeps. I guess those beeps are a lot better than blank, blank, blanket, blank, blank, blank.
Like my kid. Contact the new kid. I'm going to write your on you little. You think you're bad? You're going to kill me? We'll see who's the better shot. You're a crazy loser that doesn't have a dime that Monica wrapped into her grift.
He reached out to my mother, and Mama didn't tell Daddy for a long time because Daddy was a Vietnam guy. I don't think he would have taken lightly to someone threatening his kid.
Threatening to kill them and others.
He called the mother. The mother's elderly. She's like in her 70s. This woman was crying like I understood I could defend myself. This poor old woman, he was threatening to kill her too.
In April of 2024, Raful had 8 criminal cases pending in Salt Lake City, which do not include his victims in Louisiana. In January 2021, he set his sights on a mother, father, and son he knew after meeting the son at the gym.
Haven't seen him in over 2 years. And I told him your best bet is to go back to Utah.
Records show Maurice first threatened his son on Instagram.
There will be bloodshed. My son said he's told him in the past that he does have a weapon. Guns, plural.
On this night, he called them from Salt Lake City.
How old is the son? A child? Like young? I know he was at the gym. So I guess probably not.
Said, this is going to be bad for your husband and your son. Called him by name. This is not a nuisance. This was a threat. I couldn't understand what he said, but he said, in your city. So I don't know if that means he's in my city tonight. If he's coming to my city, I don't know.
He then said that this...
Language so vulgar, she handed the phone to her son.
I felt that we were in danger. My husband, my son, and myself. I didn't know if he was outside my door with a gun. I didn't know where he was.
He even sent this letter postmarked October 26, 2020 from Salt Lake City to Monica.
You people should be locked in federal prison for the rest of your life. You don't try to con me, then run to the cops.
Finding my kids on social media, sending them messages, calling businesses around us, calling us grifters, reaching out to some of our clients that he knew.
He'd say, I will find you when you least expect me to be around you. I'm at the grocery store. I'm scared of what's around me. Like, my entire life changed.
Maurice's targets included strangers, acquaintances, and even law enforcement officers. No one was off limits.
The policeman.
So they said that he had a bunch of problems in the history, but no convictions. He was never found guilty of any of them.
He just said, our hands are tied. We're doing everything that we can to protect you.
He seemed normal at first, but then over time, it seemed like a lot of paranoia. Like, just people were out to get him.
Including law enforcement.
He felt like police were watching him. I don't know if he's back here, and he had said in the past that he has a gun, so it's kind of a little, scary and stuff. He knows where we live. He does know our address for sure.
In 2021, his attacks were unleashed on a doctor in Louisiana who committed Raful for mental health treatment.
Hi, this is the nurse, Adele. How can I help you?
I was just on hold.
So we should elect him.
On the line with the guy who's in charge of the hospital. You guys aren't running a hospital of any validity, ma'am. Okay? My name is Maurice Raful.
This isn't the hospital. This is the call center for COVID-19 to see if you need to be tested or not.
No. I don't need to be tested. I need people in your hospital arrested. I need people in your town arrested for committing organized crime against me. That's
Sir,
what I'm calling about. I'm in Utah, ma'am. I'm in Utah. This ain't ever ending. I'm coming down there with my folks, and I'm going to smash your down. You hear me?
For years, police reports show Raful had been calling Lafayette General Medical Center stating that he was going to blow the hospital up and kill all staff and patients and murder the doctor who had him committed in 2018. Hospital officials did not wish to pursue charges, knowing Raful was staying in Salt Lake City. The investigator noted they didn't want him transported back to Lafayette and become a bigger and real threat.
Hey, Lance Fogelman, you lying motherfucker.
He left Dr. Fogelman this voicemail message.
You think this over, you little? I know where you live, mother. I know what your wife is. I'm gonna your labs up, you lying sack. How dare you try to drug me? I'm gonna maul you, you mother. I'm gonna maul your town. I'm gonna murder your.
Over the course of more than 100 911 calls, the incidents involving Raful painted a disturbing picture. The calls ranged from family violence and assaults on police officers to repeated
Fozzie's right. I might have possibly said everything like that to my cats at least once. Is that wrong?
reports of a mentally ill individual causing disturbances. There were complaints of harassment, bullying, intimidation, and violations of both protective orders and civil stalking injunctions. Dispatch logs also recorded domestic assaults, attacks on vulnerable adults, and numerous calls citing psychiatric concerns. Throughout it all, Raful frequently unleashed profanity-laced tirades at 911 dispatchers, often ending the calls by abruptly hanging up.
My uncle is on the board of your hospital, had a doctor right. Absolute lie against me.
His history in Louisiana is exactly how it is here. He preys upon old people. He preys upon women.
Raful would leave Louisiana with his mom and move back to Salt Lake City on Chadwick Street, where he is accused of leading a campaign of terror against his neighbors.
On September 22, 2021, Maurice attacked his elderly father, choking him by sitting on him, and said he wanted him dead. When Assad called 911, Maurice can be heard in the background telling him to shut your ass up. He took the phone away from his dad, and the line went dead. The 911 dispatcher called back. Maurice answered, and the dispatcher asked if there was an emergency, to which Maurice responded in a profanity-laced tirade. Salt Lake police responded and immediately brought his parents outside, while other officers were inside the home trying to find out what happened. Assad downplayed the extent of the assault against him, but admitted that his son wanted him dead.
He kept saying, "God."
Maurice is asked if he took the phone from his dad, and he said, "I told him, don't call the fucking pigs." They tell him he's being detained and that he needs to cooperate. And he says, "Why? Why, bitch?" He is led out of the house past his parents, and he turns to his dad and called him a profanity as he walked past him. His parents are given advice from the officers, and that the way to force him to get treatment is to get arrested, go to jail, and have a judge force him to do it. His dad makes it clear he does not want his son forcibly medicated.
Because the drugs are not going to change anything. He will be a vegetable. We spend the whole money. Just pay that 2 or 3.
Parents, dearest parents, we know you love your children. We know you do. But helping them this way is not parental love at all. No, it's not. Yo, that was my son. Bye. Go to jail. Go get meds.
Listening to them screaming at police in Louisiana.
He says, "We don't want sometimes mental health resources because they begin to drug him."
This is Maurice Raffoul, handcuffed, answering questions from Salt Lake Police on June 4th, 2022.
I don't want to be here. I didn't come to this sake of Utah to work. And I sure as didn't come here to have my neighbor's spine on.
Court records show on June 4th, 2022, Salt Lake police responded to the house on another domestic abuse call. His dad, Assad, told police his son hit him on the wrist, leg, and knee during an argument over money. Assad also said that his son threatened to kill him if he didn't give him $50,000 by Monday. When the officers tried to talk to Maurice, he squared up to the officers, screaming profanities, and refused to put his hands behind his back and pulled away from them. What's more, the probable cause affidavit shows the day before, Maurice called 911 and made threats to hurt officers and kill his elderly parents if they did not give him money. It also reveals that there is an open Adult Protective Services case in which they were investigating abuse against his parents. It specifically states that Maurice has access to firearms in the residence. A month later, Salt Lake police are armed with an arrest warrant for the assault on his dad. They know his propensity for violence and approach the house armed and strategically.
In this neighborhood this afternoon, we're right on Parkway Avenue at Chadwick Street. You can still see there's some residual SWAT presence here, and investigators are now trying to piece together. So what we've learned from Salt Lake Police is that this started around 2:30 this afternoon. There was a report of a physical domestic violence incident at a home on Chadwick Street. When police got here, the victim had been able to get away from that house. At that point, they say the man barricaded himself inside of the house. The SWAT team was called out here.
A statement issued by the Salt Lake City Police Department read, "Today, the Salt Lake City police officers, with the assistance of the police department's SWAT team."
Maurice, Nan swatted you. Go get her. Nan is the one that swatted you.
Safely arrested a 41-year-old man who barricaded himself inside a home after allegedly assaulting a family member. This investigation started shortly after 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022, when Salt Lake Call 911 Center received information about a domestic violence assault. Once officers got on scene, the victim told them there were several unsecured guns inside his house. Patrol officers surrounded the house and started multiple attempts to communicate with the suspect, identified as Maurice Raffoul. Out of an abundance of caution, officers told people in the neighborhood to stay inside. Prior to police arriving, the victim moved to a safe location. Aside from Raffoul, there was no one else inside the home. Maurice can be seen in the glass through the front door, but refuses to come out.
Maurice! Hey, can you see me? Can you stand up and walk to me?
The on-scene incident commander requested the assistance of SWAT and crisis negotiators. These highly trained teams provide patrol officers with additional resources. The victim is recovering from non-life-threatening injuries allegedly caused by Raffoul. At approximately 4:20 p.m., Raful peacefully surrendered. He was not hurt.
We got him. We could be living the best life. We don't need to live here. There's no guns. We're in a safe.
He's walked down the street.
And we're millionaires and can do whatever we want.
And then he starts in on the man who lives across the street from him.
Oh, we got the news. The guy from Channel 2 got me.
Raful will be booked into the Salt Lake County Metro Jail on 3 counts of domestic violence assault. During the investigation, officers learned Raful allegedly assaulted the victim over the last 3 days.
According to charging documents, Maurice Rafal told jail staff as he was being booked that the law doesn't apply to him and that nobody could control him. Police wanted him to stay in jail because he's previously been accused of threatening to kill his parents if they didn't give him money, but it wasn't long before he came walking out. SWAT officers flooded the Salt Lake neighborhood on Tuesday afternoon. They came out with Maurice Rafal in cuffs and hauled him to jail. To the surprise of police and neighbors, he was back here within a day, only to then be arrested again.
Sometimes even your very fastest effort is not quick enough.
District Attorney Sim Gill says prosecutors were actively trying to file charges the morning after the arrest, when a judge quickly granted Rafal bail. So with $250 to a bail bonds company, Rafal walked out. Why Rafal got out so quickly is a complicated question.
Bail is a constitutional right in this country.
Despite concerns by police about threats and access to weapons, Rafal was only booked on 3 misdemeanor assault charges.
If it's not one of those offenses that are specifically listed, then a judge can't hold them without bail. We can't do it based on what the Constitution says.
In addition to bail, Rafal was also put on a jail release agreement, which prohibited him from returning to his parents' home. He allegedly violated that and was arrested again, this time being held without bail. I did speak to his father today at his home. The family says they don't want him to be in jail and they would just want him to come home to be with them.
Already out of jail, he calls 911 to get an officer to go with him to pick up some things from his parents' house.
What was your name? Maurice. You guys know who I am, bro. You know who I am. You like that little piece on the TV last night, you liars?
Agitated, they're taking too long.
They're tied up on
when
other calls
Texas
right now.
Toast called,
We can't
when
keep
Texas
responding
Toast
to you
called,
over and over
would
all
you
day long. We
shut
have
your
other
hole up
stuff
and get
going
one of
on.
those mother here. Get my Uber here.
He goes to the house anyway.
That's my dad's money. Dude, that's to pay my bond.
You know you're not supposed to go back to the house,
I've
Maurice.
been waiting for y'all to come pick me up.
Well, here we are. Another day with Maurice.
Raful continued to tie up tax dollars and police department resources when he redirected his focus to those living around him on Chadwick Street. A spokesman for the department said it is difficult to accurately estimate the cost associated with responding to the Raful home.
Well, we moved in 2003, and everything was normal. It was a nice neighborhood. And about 2014, 2015, he left, went to Louisiana. He comes back about 2018, and that's when all the stuff started happening. And we're out on our lawn, and he decides he's just going to go off on us.
Put your hands behind your back.
I feel like Maurice is a ticking time bomb waiting to happen.
You motherfuckers have been with me for how many years?
It's vile. It's terrible. Terrible.
The first interaction with him was him like doing this with his hand and saying tick tock, tick tock.
He's terrorizing our neighborhood. He's absolutely terrorizing our neighborhood.
On July 17th, 2022, he made repeated calls to 911 about his neighbors and questioned why the police weren't at his house. He was swearing and yelling when his neighbors called 911 on him. These people need to be put in check who live across the street from me, and continued uttering profanities, calling the police pigs and accusing them of showing up to his house and writing lies about him in their reports. Where's some bacon with a badge to come write another fucking lie?
You don't get it, you. I want my neighbors to pick out the I'm gonna this week. I want you guys to be here. That way my neighbors can, because they're very interested in who I'm.
We haven't provoked him ever.
He then says any diagnosis at the U was an absolute bullshit diagnosis, and the second I stopped the pills, everything stopped. The tirade didn't end there.
Our neighbor next door, Sean Bailey, his security camera would catch either in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day when no one is around, when Maurice would come out and he would rant and rave and would scream vulgarities at everybody, but mostly trying to threaten me and my wife.
You're gonna get somebody up here right now. This guy is gonna kill somebody. I swear to God, he is going off. He is threatening us. You've got to get somebody up here now. Get him here now. This is dangerous. Now I said somebody's gonna end up dying over this.
Salt Lake Police showed up to arrest him following the verbally aggressive calls to 911. He tells them all he wants them to do is to get on their porch, referring to his neighbor Sean Hannon and his wife Cheryl, and before he finishes, he realizes he's about to be arrested. He puts up a violent struggle with the officers and resists and is taken down to the ground yelling, "Why are you arresting me?" He swung his fist at Sergeant Haskell and hit him in the eye. Once on the grass, he continued to resist, and his dad comes out, and the officers are yelling for him to get back inside the house due to the danger. "Go back inside, sir." KUTV was introduced to this case by Sean Hannon, a KUTV employee who lives directly across the street from the Raful home. The Hannons had been a consistent target of Maurice since he arrived back in Salt Lake City.
Raful believes that because Sean Hannon works for KUTV2 News, that he hacked his electronic devices.
I have the ability to hack his computers, his Wi-Fi, his TV.
Maurice has also stated in open court that Hannon and his wife Cheryl are working for his aunt against him and his mother. He says, "Yeah, the guy across the street from us has probably been hacking us and getting paid by my aunt for years."
Cheryl, you ain't fat. You guys want to put me back in jail? Where's your gun? Come out, let's do it. I'll crush your faces.
It took months for the Hannons to get a stalking injunction against him. A few months ago, he's yelling for Sean to come out.
I'll beat your Sean!
And yells Cheryl's name and states, "Dig a hole."
Cheryl! Hit the hole!
Well, I took that as a threat that he was going to kill Sean.
The visual evidence painted a picture of a neighborhood under siege, and nobody seemed to know what to do. Neighbors all say that Salt Lake Police did everything they possibly could to keep them safe.
For Sean Hannon, a KUTV employee, and his wife Cheryl, Raful's victims here in Salt Lake, it has been terrifying.
I'm grateful for the Louisiana ladies. They didn't want us to feel alone with this terror.
I need the court system to be on our side, not helping him.
The guy from Channel 2 got me. That little oh, he's a talking about Sean across the street.
Why do you think he's fixated on you?
Because I work for Channel 2.
Raful claims he's a millionaire, and when he sees the media...
I'm on the news. You're on the news, man. A future trust funder's on the news.
18 days after the SWAT incident, he violated a protective order.
But I'm dealing with a group of dirty cops in Louisiana, no matter what you think, and a bunch of people that literally are jealous that I'm spoiled.
This is him on November 3rd, violating a stalking injunction the Hannons obtained against him. He is proclaiming himself the winner of a head-to-head match against Sean Hannon.
You think you're going to push me around? Then come out and do it. Mano a mano. Not being a little all at once. Winner!
His neighbors said they were always on edge when Raful was visible, but they are certain most of the blame should be directed at his father.
If he goes to jail, they'll have him bailed out within less than 12 hours. They're enabling him.
Neighbors also see what's at play in this situation, saying, "I think that Maurice's mom and dad only like him there when he's stable because they are so old and they need help. I mean, he's out there mowing the lawn. He's doing like errands and stuff with them like that. So when he's actually sane and competent, they value his being there. But the second it switches, they call the police and then they downplay it." The day following the SWAT standoff with Maurice, he was released on $250 bail. His neighbors again reached out to Wendy Halloran out of frustration and fear.
The Hannons and their neighbors say prosecutors are not acting quick enough.
The process takes too long. They haven't even screened all of the videos.
The state's behavioral health services office has just failed him completely and us.
Neighbors continued to be frightened because Maurice Raful was released over and over again.
The behavior is very concerning.
Amy Griffiths is the chief of AP&P Region 3 for Salt Lake.
In November of 2023, Halloran reported that Raful was on a 36-month probation for a third-degree felony conviction of vulnerable adult abuse for attacking his father and assaulting a police officer. She alerted Adult Probation and Protection Service, and on November 15th, 2024,
We had multiple agents and supervisors that were able to go and locate him. Upon exiting the department store, we took him into custody.
Griffiths says AP&P also requested a no-bail warrant and got it.
Raful was arrested by adult probation and parole following the first 2 News investigation in November 2023 and incarcerated at the Salt Lake County Jail without bail. Since then, 2 News Investigates has filed more than 20 reports on Raful's vile, profanity-laced tirades, both in person and over the phone. The Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office combined 3 of his cases, including this one, and gave him a plea bargain. He was convicted of misdemeanor assault against Sergeant Haskell in the case. Prosecutors dismissed 2 charges with prejudice, meaning they cannot be refiled in accordance with the plea deal, for interfering with an arresting officer and making a false report to 911. Wendy Halloran of KUTV contacted the Salt Lake City, Utah District Attorney's Office about Raful's Louisiana rampage. They responded saying they were not aware of the allegations against Mr. Raful out of Louisiana until the victims informed their prosecutor. The statement went on to say that the DA's office requests the judge set Raful's bail at no bail and he not be released from jail. While in jail, Raful reached out to a third neighbor in an attempt to persuade the Hannons to drop stalking charges against him. His attempt to avoid contact with his victims only backfired.
Raful decided to send a letter from the Salt Lake County Metro Jail to one of his neighbors who happens to be a witness in one of the cases against him. So your neighbor just received a letter from the Salt Lake County Metro Jail.
Because it just didn't make any sense. Why would Maurice write Sean a letter?
Take a close look at Maurice Raful's letter. It's addressed to Sean Brook. For starters, there is no Sean Brook at that address. Sean Bailey lives at that address.
911, what's your emergency?
The same Sean Bailey who called 911 pleading for help after Raful was off the rails, screaming he was going to kill his neighbors.
Chadwick Street, get in here now! This is getting bad, dude!
Maurice's dad, Assad, joined in. It's written on the wrong side of the paper, but says, please stop this lawsuit or court case. I need out of jail and I will move out of the state ASAP.
I was just shocked that Maurice would send this to him to begin with.
But there's a problem. In the eyes of the law, this Sean is not a victim of Raful. He doesn't have a stalking injunction against Raful either. Sean Hannon, a KUTV employee who lives directly across the street from Raful and right next door to Sean Bailey, does. The Hannons believe Raful intentionally sent the letter to their neighbor, knowing he would immediately show it to them. And that's precisely what happened.
The moment he got it after he read it to his wife, he came over and showed it to us, and I was still in disbelief.
The Hannons believe Raful planned it this way so that he wouldn't violate the stalking injunction they have against him. The letter also says, my parents are really hurting. I just wanted them to move out of Utah and enjoy their old age more.
He had mentioned in the letter about his parents being elderly and going downhill, but I see them every day, and they are acting just the same.
The back of the envelope says, help me get out. I will leave Utah ASAP.
Why didn't he leave a year ago? Before he beat up his parents, before he started, screaming at us.
2 News Investigates found his dad staunchly defends his son. In fact, Assad has written multiple letters to the judge. In the latest one, he fired the attorney he hired to represent Maurice. You are a man who cannot be trusted. It was a huge mistake hiring you. You are a nightmare of a lawyer. The accusations so defamatory, the attorney got the court to seal the letter.
He and his father are master manipulators of the...
Well, hold on a second. That part doesn't make sense. All right, so it's not unusual for people in jail to write the judge, but judges don't read that. If they have a lawyer, the judges don't read that. So, like, how did that come out that he wrote the judge?
court systems.
After the judge added the witness tampering to the multiple charges pending against him, Maurice's father, Assad, began a campaign for his son's release.
Maurice's dad, Assad, and mom, Donna, decided to drop by the APMP office unannounced to speak with their son's probation agent, pressing APMP to change their recommendation, with Assad becoming visibly angry, blaming APMP and KUTV. This email Assad sent to Judge William Kendall in December claims Maurice was a victim of organized crime in Louisiana beginning in 2017. To this day, the purpose of the crime was to steal a business Maurice was managing for his mom. The mob had Maurice kidnapped to have the business stolen, an act that cost us $500,000 and the health of Maurice. 6 months later, Assad decided to confront his son's probation agent. Instead, they got his supervisor, Sergeant Roberts. Assad explained that he believes, quote, very powerful.
It doesn't get reported because if he has an attorney, the judges don't read it. They don't read the letter. They're not allowed to. Are they? That's crazy. I didn't know that they were also sent to the attorneys. That makes sense then.
Powerful people in Louisiana, and KUTV are responsible for his son's troubles and probation. And a mafia-type organization is responsible for the charges his son is on probation for.
What we're hearing from the father also sounds a lot like what we're hearing from Maurice, which also appears to be very concerning.
APMP Assistant Chief Amy Griffiths said Assad then made his point.
He wanted APMP to change their recommendation.
APMP's recommendation is for Judge Kendall to revoke his probation and impose the original prison sentence he suspended to begin with for the attack on his dad. Sergeant Roberts told Assad APMP believes prison could be beneficial for his rehabilitation, and the answer is no. At that point, Assad became upset, raised his voice, asking, what crime has my son committed?
He doesn't believe his son belongs in prison.
Stood up and argued in an angry tone.
Maurice is a public safety threat, and so we're sticking by our recommendation.
Assad was asked to leave. He repeatedly refused.
To come in and try to continue to talk us out of our recommendation. That part seems concerning to me. Eventually, his wife stood up and said, you came and said what you had planned to, so let's go.
APMP at the ready, agents in front of the door, and Sergeant Roberts and others behind it, forcing them to leave.
They escorted him out of the office.
This is a 108-page document Assad Raful sent to the court titled Bias Against Maurice Raful. He called a defense attorney Maurice fired a phantom lawyer, chastised another defense attorney for not calling back. After having spent a whole day waiting for your phone call, it is now 8:30 p.m. and no word from Counsel Hakes. The same is true for Maurice. He has no clue what to expect tomorrow from the hearing. Are we supposed to call the butcher for guidance?
Mental competency evaluations were conducted, and Maurice Raful was found competent to stand trial.
So even while in jail, even understanding all these cases pending and everything's going on, he still reaches out to the neighbor, sending a letter asking him to help out with his cases, making sure what is. Second of all, I believe he's a flight risk. This is said if he gets out, he'll just move to Utah.
Judge William Kendall asked Raful if he understood the new charges against him.
It's good to see that the court audio in Utah is just as bad as everywhere else. So we're not really missing anything, guys.
Witness tampering for this letter he sent from jail. Raful said yes.
His public defender asked Judge William Kendall to release Raful from jail. She said, mentally, he is much more aware and alert than he has previously been. In speaking with him, he indicates that he's started on a couple different types of medication. Those have been helping him out a lot. He's had a lot of time to reflect. She went on to tell Judge Kendall that while in jail, he had been talking to some social workers and said it's been very beneficial to him.
Raful's dad, Assad, was there in the gallery, and Vandekamp then raised issues about his confinement in jail. He's been there since November 15th, following our 2 News investigation. Vandekamp told the judge about Assad's chief complaints that his 43-year-old son has been held in segregation too long, complaining about his son's health, citing he has dietary issues and wants him to be placed in a different pod in the jail.
Nonetheless, to let the court know that he is concerned about his son's health and mental health in the jail.
I certainly understand those concerns. Unfortunately, I don't really have the means to tell the jail what to do with people they are holding there.
His attorney also told Judge Kendall that Assad has gotten his son screened for inpatient treatment and that he has been accepted into a program with the condition that he continue on medication as prescribed and complete treatment. Our investigation has repeatedly shown that his dad does not approve of what he calls the state drugging his son, but that wasn't brought up today.
Raful pleaded guilty to 6 counts of violating stalking injunctions. In Halloran's investigation of Maurice Raful, she found that most of his disturbing thoughts and actions come from beliefs his father has. In fact, Asad Raful continues to fight for his son's release while blaming others for his son's incarceration.
You know, it's important to point out, late last year, Maurice's dad, Assad, sent an email to Judge William Kendall claiming that the Louisiana mob paid us to do the reporting on his son. That email also said, quote, "No wonder Maurice is so discombobulated. After the hellish crime of Louisiana, he had to come to peaceful Utah to be subjected to a rogue police force."
Maurice was later convicted of a 3rd-degree felony for the attack on his dad on June 4th, 2022. Prosecutors combined the attack against his dad, the assault on Sergeant Haskell, and another case in the plea deal. He was facing up to 5 years in prison. Judge William Kendall sentenced him to 364 days in jail and gave him credit for 87 days he had already served. Ultimately, 277 days were suspended. He was placed on probation for 36 months under the supervision of adult probation and parole.
His defense attorney, Brock Vandekamp, argued that Raful was accepted to the STEP program for treatment and that he would even wear an ankle monitor to avoid prison. Adult probation and parole Sergeant Roberts told Judge William Kendall that he should revoke Raful's probation, and prosecutor Melanie Serasio agreed.
Frankly, he needs to be in a secure facility that he cannot leave, and that is the Utah State Prison, Your Honor.
His course of conduct has been going on for more than 2 years now. You've been essentially a one-person crime spree and disruptor of neighborhood harmony for a very long time.
Psycho. That attorney is a psycho. How can someone live with their desktop icons like that? He needs to go to jail. This attorney needs to go to jail. That's unacceptable, sir. How can you live like that? I need to fast forward this.
Time.
This emotionally exhausting experience.
But even with the stalking injunction in place, he continued his vulgar outburst and specifically death threats against me and my wife.
Maurice's parents were there. His dad, Assad, decided to speak and accused KUTV of, quote, despicable yellow journalism. He also blamed Sean Hannon, still claiming to the judge that Hannon hacked into his TV and his internet. Afterwards, he told prosecutor Melanie Serasio that she didn't know how to do her job.
The parents don't believe in forced medication. They still buy into these conspiracy theories. They actually feed into the conspiracy theories.
Your Honor.
I'm very sorry for the things that I'm in court for today. It's really humbling to be in this situation. You know, I can't control the things from the past. They happened. I'm sorry. It won't happen again.
Forcibly medicated.
I plan on staying on this medication. I want to be a part of society.
I start a new job on Monday.
I'm very, very sorry that I caused anybody grief. I'm sorry to my parents. You know, they're the ones that really took a lot of unusual behavior. And I don't want to be that person.
Pleading to go to a treatment program.
I don't want to just be thrown in prison where I don't think that's really the place for me.
His dad, Assad, we were not allowed to show, casting blame.
I will not comment on the despicable yellow journalism practiced by Channel 2. Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge Kendall deciding prison is the only option to keep the public safe.
In the neighborhood, numerous victims of your offense. And while on the one hand, you don't have an extensive criminal history, over the past couple of years, you've racked up quite a tally of cases.
Halloran reported that she had been going over a 108-page letter written by Maurice within the court records. She was trying to examine and make sense of what Maurice wrote.
I don't start a new job on Monday. No, I was saying that's what he was going to say to the judge.
Over time, but she said he drifts in and out of reason. While it seems to make sense in his mind, it paints a damning picture of a deeply disturbed man who has been allowed to run amok for years. Maurice Raffoul went before a parole hearing officer in May of 2025, pleading to be let out and committing to take his medication, just as he has been doing in prison.
It's just a matter of time before he actually does kill someone.
I'd be so bad at that job. I would be really bad at selling burritos, but I would weigh 700 pounds.
Especially with knowing of their vast gun collection. He does not deserve to be granted parole. It is far too soon, and I beg of you, we do not want to become a statistic.
After hearing from 3 of Raffoul's victims, the board took just 3 days to deny his bail. They stated the aggravating factors considered were the length of time that Raffoul bullied his victims and the number of multiple victims over a significant period of time. Maurice Raffoul will now spend the remaining 2 years in the Utah State Prison until his next parole hearing in September 2027. Those threatened in Louisiana by Maurice Raffoul do not want action taken against him if it will bring him back to their state. The police agree.
So when you saw the reporting that I have done, multiple reports on what he's doing here, what did you both think?
Finally, somebody's doing something about him.
I was awestruck. I felt like my life completely changed on a dime. I felt there was some savior for me out there.
Why did it take nearly 3 decades in a journalist's relentless pursuit for action to be taken? How many cries for help were ignored, dismissed, forgotten? This is not just a story about one man. It's a story about the cracks in our system of mental health, law enforcement, and media. A story of fear and the cost of inaction. Maurice Raffoul's story may not be over, but for now, the silence around it is.
Okay, we're going to do one more quick one. It's like 25 minutes long, something like that. 22 minutes long. I paused, talk, so 25 minutes long. Unfolding the double life of a dangerous disbarred attorney. Same channel, guys. This is it. This is the channel. Tona sent me that first one, and then I saw this one, and I thought, oh, I need to see this. We need to see this one. So we're going to do this one too. Marked with Deception and Betrayal is the channel name. The link to both of the videos that we're watching today is in the channel description. So professional. Look at this. Videos are very professional. You guys aren't used to that here, are you?
A disbarred attorney accused of murder is on the run, and people who know him say they're terrified that he will come after them.
He once defended the law in a courtroom, but on a summer morning in Georgia, the law came knocking on his own front door. Inside, they found a body and a story that shocked even seasoned detectives. What begins as a white-collar crime investigation spirals into a grim murder inquiry. The man who once wrote checks on behalf of his clients may have signed the warrant for the murder of his own flesh and blood.
Very professional. I love it.
Richard Merritt once lived a life admired by many, a family man, a father, and an attorney with his own practice. On the surface, everything seemed picture perfect, but behind closed doors, a web of deception was slowly unraveling. For part of his childhood, Richard Merritt lived in luxury in Saudi Arabia with his parents, Shirley and Robert Sr. His father was a defense contractor back then. According to Robert, his brother's manipulative behavior started early, and it worsened over the years. In 9th grade, Richard moved to Atlanta to live with Robert so he could continue his education. Robert says that he was stuck at that time, acting as his brother's cook, driver, and house servant. In the early 1990s, Robert Sr. and Shirley also moved back to Georgia, and Robert Sr. retired later. Richard, who went on to study law, married his college sweetheart and initially struggled to get his career off the ground. According to his brother, he was lazy and failed the exam several times. His wife also had an interesting way of explaining his career.
He became an attorney quite some time after he graduated. It took him 3 times to pass the bar. He worked for many firms. He practiced many different kinds of law over the years. He had a lot of different jobs at a lot of different firms doing different things. He had his own private practice prior to losing.
I'm going to go out on a limb here with this one and say 99.9% of us that watch these court cases just love forensic files.
His license.
In November of 2000, Robert Sr. died suddenly while traveling with his wife Shirley. The grieving widow dedicated herself to spending time with her grandchildren and rebuilding her life. Meanwhile, Richard worked for the Georgia Attorney General's office and then for several law firms. In 2003, Richard moved his growing family to Smyrna, Georgia. There, Richard and his wife raised their son and daughter, and 7 years later, he opened his own law practice. With his success, Richard seems to have created the ideal life. But in May of 2017, that veneer of perfection was shattered when he received a court summons after returning from a family vacation. Merritt had settled a lawsuit for 2 sisters who were clients, but without their knowledge, he had pocketed their $70,000 settlement check. Investigators found that over the course of several years, Merritt stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from clients, many of them elderly, pocketing funds from settlements meant to help them recover. Merritt appeared to live high on the hog, while 2 of his victims begged for a police investigation. He drove a Porsche and posted trips on his Facebook page that included deep-sea fishing, Braves baseball, and beach resort getaways. Cobb County Police finally investigated and arrested Merritt on theft, forgery, and elderly abuse charges. He pleaded guilty and faced the wrath of 13 victims. Each one came to court to tell Merritt and the judge what he had done to their lives. One by one, they told their stories to the court, stories of betrayal, pain, health problems, money problems, and lack of faith in a slow-moving criminal justice system that let Merritt run wild on everyone else's dime.
There are so many judgments against him. There's no way he's going to repay all the money. So that the only thing that's going to make us feel better is if he's sitting in jail.
Not only did Richard lose his license to practice law and his livelihood, his wife also filed for divorce and fought for custody of their children. In 2019, a Cobb County judge sentenced Merritt to 15 years in prison and ordered him to pay his victims $454,706 in restitution after he pleaded guilty to 34 felony counts, including theft, forgery, exploitation of an elderly person, and bank account fraud. The judge described Merritt as despicable, deplorable, and reprehensible. But Merritt didn't go to prison right away. He was granted one final weekend with his mother before turning himself in.
Richard Merritt is dealing with some family medical issues, and the prosecution agreed to let him turn himself in to begin his 15-year prison sentence on February 1st.
Shirley Merritt had stood by her son through every accusation. To her, he was still the boy she raised, not the criminal the court described. Shirley Merritt was 77 years old, and she was the only person left in Richard's life who had not washed their hands of him. She was always there to lift him out of his financial woes. By the time his trial was done, she was practically bankrupt, taking out a second mortgage on her home to bail him out of jail. However, according to her other son, Richard continued to treat his mother horribly through it all. On February 1st, 2019, she welcomed him home, cooking his favorite meal. It was meant to be a goodbye, a gesture of love and forgiveness before they had to make that trip to turn her son over to the Cobb County Jail. But what happened that night was anything but loving. The next morning, Richard Merritt was gone, and so was Shirley. Until law enforcement found her body at the bottom of the basement stairs. His mother was stabbed with such force that the blade of the knife broke off in her skull. Investigators also discovered a broken knife handle near Shirley's body and 2 missing steak knives from the kitchen. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the victim knew her attacker. With Richard and his mother's car missing, he immediately became suspect number 1. A nationwide manhunt for Merritt ensued.
This is the arraignment calendar for Division 1.
Another routine day at the DeKalb County Courthouse. Defendants file into court. But on this day, one high-profile defendant is a no-show.
State v. Richard Merritt.
Richard Merritt, disgraced lawyer, convicted thief, now facing a murder charge.
No response.
U.S. Marshals issued a federal warrant for his arrest, warning the public that he was armed and dangerous. The remainder of his family stayed on edge, wondering if they too would be his victim.
I'm afraid that he's out of the country since he just vanished without a trace. I initially thought that this was spontaneous, but I do think now that he's done such a good job of escaping and hiding that this must have been planned.
The fugitive had ditched his court-ordered ankle monitor at nearby truck stop, stolen his mother's Lexus, and disappeared. The Marshals' manhunt found surveillance video of Merritt stopping at a convenience store before leaving town headed north. They tracked his movements across several states, but for 8 months, Merritt remained on the run. Merritt had landed near Nashville, Tennessee. He changed his appearance, shaved his head and beard, discarded his cell phone, and even tried to blend in, but time was against him. The hunt intensified, and pressure mounted. People across the country were warned. This man was not just a thief, but now considered armed and dangerous. Tips began to pour in. A man matching Merritt's description was seen in Tennessee, then Alabama. But it was in Nashville where his luck finally ran out. Although Merritt had changed car tags, he was still driving the SUV registered in his mother's name. He obtained a fake ID and had been going by the name of Mick Malvo and working at an Irish pub. He then starts setting up online dating profiles. Some poor woman actually found his profile attractive and began speaking with him. Not long after dating, she allowed him to move in with her. He told the woman that he was in marketing, he had no kids with his ex-wife, and both of his parents were no longer alive due to natural causes.
Marietta attorney who's been on the run since February has finally been caught.
On September 30th, 2019, U.S. Marshals catch up with Richard Merritt. The first flag came when the attorney representing him in his criminal case received a strange cartoon in the mail. It was the same cartoon flyer that Merritt claimed were mailed to he and his mother by those he had defrauded. It was postmarked from Nashville, Tennessee. But the stolen Lexus was the catalyst to Richard Merritt's capture. Someone had broken into the vehicle, and a patrolling officer ran the tag. He found it was stolen, ran the VIN number, and saw there was a bolo on the Lexus. From there, marshals began surveilling him and eventually took him into custody without incident at a nearby thrift store. Back in Georgia, Merritt now faced more than just financial crimes. He was charged with the murder of his own mother, the one person who never stopped believing in his innocence. In court, prosecutors laid out the horrific details: blunt force trauma, defensive wounds. The scene was described as personal, rage-filled, a betrayal carried out in the heart of a mother's home. Richard, being the classic narcissist he was, insisted on testifying in his defense. That didn't go too well for him.
In 2018, I was arrested in Cobb County for multiple counts of theft, forgery, and there were some counts also of elder exploitation because I did steal money from some elderly folks. Several months earlier, I had voluntarily surrendered my bar license since I started my practice in 2010, but it was right on the little village square. That was part of why I picked that area, because I saw a need. I wanted to be the local lawyer that people went to first for help. And it was a very successful, actually the first time I got arrested in connection with the Cobb County fraud was in April of 2017. It was shortly after spring break that year. We had just gotten back and I had In January of 2018, they had taken out a warrant for one account of theft by conversion, alleging I'd stolen $70,000. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to appear. Funds were extremely tight and limited. I was in the Cobb County Jail. Janine was scrambling to try to make sense of what was going on and take care of the children. So my mother graciously offered to assist with his initial fee payment.
And Mr. Queen, this is turning into a lot of narrative. So you need to either ask some specific questions or instruct your client to confine his answers to the questions that are asked.
While on the stand, Merritt claimed 2 random men knocked on his mother's front door that day. When he answered it, they pulled out a gun and forced their way into the home.
They said, head to the basement and don't say an effing word. She opened the door to the basement, flicked on the light. It was a two-step process to get down those stairs. You had 4 or 5 steps that went down, there's a landing, and then you make the turn, and there's the longer flight of stairs. They proceeded first. My mother was crying. She was making sounds like she might be wanting to scream or shout. He told her to shut the F up and pushed her down the stairs. It was the worst sound I've ever heard in my life. She plunged headlong into the wall. It's a sound I can hear to this day as I'm sitting here. And I could tell that there was a dent or a hole in the wall. She was trying to get up and move around, but from my vantage point, she appeared like she couldn't get her balance. The gentleman who pushed her down the stairs put his pistol behind his back into the back part of his jeans. He ran down the stairs, turned the corner, and came back with the 35 pounds weight that has been seen during the course of this trial.
And where did the knife come from?
Well, the knife came later. This monster took this dumbbell and proceeded to bludgeon my mother right in front of me. And she stopped moving at this point. And then the older guy took off up the stairs. He came back a few minutes later with the kitchen knife and proceeded to stab my mother repeatedly in front of me. I cannot believe what I was seeing. I didn't understand what would be the purpose because she wasn't moving. Why is any of this happening? It was a complete and utter nightmare. There's nothing I could do. I had a pistol to my back. I couldn't believe this was happening. I had no clue who these people were or why they were doing this to us. So he stabbed her with such force.
DC, what state do you live in?
That the handle broke off the knife. I didn't realize at the time that the knife was still stuck in my poor mother's face. He put the handle down on the tile across from the dumbbell. He then turned and looked at me and he pulled out his cell phone. And he proceeded to show me a picture of my ex-wife dropping Mia off at her school, a picture of Jack being dropped off or picked up at Lovett, a picture of them all getting out of her van at their rental home in Marietta, and a picture of her either coming or going from her clinic in Vinings. And he said, and I'll never forget this as long as I live, if you say a single word, they're next. And then they left. No, I did not call the police. These guys had left. I went and got a small backpack out of my room. I put a few clothes. I didn't pack much. Some basic toiletries. And I left. I took my mother's car because it had more gas in it than my car. It had a bigger tank. And I had no idea where I was going or where I was going to end up.
There were no tears from Richard, no visible remorse. The jury took only 90 minutes to return with a verdict.
As of count 1, malice murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. As of count 2, felony murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. As of count 3, felony murder, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. As of count 4, aggravated assault, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. As of count 5, aggravated assault, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. As of count 6, possession of knife during commission of a felony, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. This 24th day of May, 2023.
Shirley Merritt was an absolutely wonderful person. She was a joy to be around. She was a very giving and loving person. And a great person was murdered by her own son. All this started almost 5 or 6 years ago now, when Richard was first arrested for stealing from clients, mostly elderly clients. And he showed then he had no compunction about doing anything. When it came time for him to go to prison, he couldn't stand the idea of somebody with an ego as big as his being sent to prison. His whole life has been a pretext. And I just want the court to know
No pineapple.
what an evil person he is in the eyes of his family.
Mr. Merritt, as to count 1, malice murder, I do sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Counts 2 and 3 will be vacated as a matter of law. Counts 4 and 5 will merge with count 1. As to count 6, possession of a knife during the commission of a felony, I do sentence you to 5 years to serve consecutive to the sentence in count 1 for a total sentence of life without parole plus 5 years.
Richard Merritt, now 49 years old, will never see the outside of prison walls. Robert says he has absolutely no pity for his younger sibling. He said, "I think he deserves to be where he is. He can sit there and think about what he did." He added, "The absolute lack of respect and clear contempt he has shown for his family, his mother, and his father's memory is unforgivable." In November of 2024, Merritt told a DeKalb County judge that his trial attorney failed him and he should get a second chance to prove he didn't kill his own mother back in 2019. In his motion for a new trial, Merritt also argued the jury's verdict contradicted the evidence, among other points. He said his public defender, Daryl Queen, shouldn't have allowed his ex-wife to tell a story on the stand about a physical altercation between the two of them. In this story that his ex-wife told, she said, "We were in an argument, we were in the bedroom, he pushed me to the ground and I hit my head on the bed." Merritt's current attorney, Shante Hightower, asked Queen why he didn't object when Mrs. Merritt made those statements on the stand. Queen's response was, "Asking the judge to bail me out when I ask a question is not something I commonly do." All in all, the ex-Mrs. Merritt's full testimony at his trial was powerful.
I served him divorce papers 5 days after he was arrested. And I divorced my ex-husband when I found out about his double life and his crimes and what he had done to all those people and what he had done to us. He didn't pay our mortgage for 6 months, so we lost our home. At the time of his arrest, January of 2018, we lost our electricity because he hadn't paid the bill. I had a van that I used to transport my daughter and her wheelchair, and he pawned the van.
Merritt also argued that Queen should have had his son Jack testify about his father's good character and the threats the family was receiving, and that he should have put his former attorney in the Cobb County case on the stand as well.
There's concern that we're being followed or the house is being watched.
Additionally, Merritt's appeal argued Queen should have put Wellingham, the defense attorney from his financial crimes, on the stand to discuss threats his mother had received. So, the judge summoned Wellingham to the appeals hearing,
In fact, I do suspect that they were authored by Mr. Merritt. What made more sense was that someone who was a narcissistic sociopath that was calculating enough to steal from all these people, his own clients, and then to murder his own mother, it made more sense that he would be planting little seeds that would grow into a defense later.
His testimony did not help Merritt. In fact, in her ruling, the judge said that Mr. Wellingham's testimony would have been harmful to the defendant. Judge Courtney Johnson denied Richard Merritt a new trial. In her order, written on January 6th of 2025, she called the jury's verdict in the case sound. Judge Courtney Johnson's decision isn't surprising and means Merritt must take his case to the Georgia Supreme Court if he wants to appeal. However, even if Merritt were to be acquitted of his mother's murder, he still faces a 30-year sentence in Cobb County, Georgia from his theft, forgery, and the elderly abuse conviction there. Shirley Merritt's love for her son never wavered, not even in her final moments. But love, tragically, was not enough to save her, and the man she once cradled in her arms will now die behind bars.
I went to get coffee. I went to get coffee because it was important. I need coffee. See, I got coffee. Because I found out he went to jail. So I didn't need to hear the rest. All right. That's what I have for today. Most of you are going to be, oh, this guy, you guys don't even know. Poor Fung. Oh, man. So there's this lawyer on the defense side, Shek. He's so bad. He's so annoying. He's so, oh my gosh. And this poor criminalist he just went to the OJ scene that day and collected evidence. That's what he did. He went and collected evidence. And oh my gosh. The defense they're just murdering him on the stand, murdering him. It's so bad. And he's on the stand forever. So we're on April 17th, 1995. He only has one more day of this. Whew. Thank goodness, because I'm tired of screaming at my monitor. I'm tired of screaming at the stupid things that he said. What ugly coffee cup? Which one is ugly? All right. It's it's not ugly. It's Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Harry Potter got me through a lot of shit, so that right now nothing really bothers me, because nothing can be as bad as the Harry Potter days. Not ugly, it's books. Why are books? How can books be ugly? They can't. It's impossible. Anyway, thanks for coming out. I'll see you all again very, very, very soon. Bye, guys.
Got these life echoes, digital dreams. Through the screen, her blue eyes gleam. Wicked humor, sharp as a knife. Her stream sparks electric light. Lady just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle, she lights the way. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom, eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor dark and twisted, sharp, in a way there's no